Just checking out. I used to have this site, nobillionaires.com, and don't think it's been updated. And yeah, it's apparently not working. Anyhow, we have a media problem in this country right now, and it's tied into our oligarchy problem. Jim Narekas from FAIR, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, is writing about this over at alternate.org. And he notes, the announcement that Time magazine would be bought by software CEO Mark Benioff highlighted the growing trends of billionaires buying up media outlets. You got Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox and New York Post and the Wall Street Journal. Flying down to L.A., again, going through the United clubs, they call them, United Clubs. The only newspapers they have now are Wall Street Journals. And they're giving them away for free to all the people who are wealthy enough to fly and have club memberships and stuff. And it's like, whoa, Anyhow, Michael Bloomberg, with Bloomberg Media, Donald Newhouse, Newhouse Media, Forbes, on their list of the world's billionaires. But then they get into Pierre Omidyar and Steve Jobs' widow, Laurene Powell Jobs, are looking at media. Mort Zuckerman, the New York real estate billionaire, owned The Atlantic from 80 to 99, the Daily News from 93 to 2017. He still owns U.S. News and World Report, which he bought in 84. And, these guys are kind of the modern day Citizens Kane. Oh, nobillionaires.com just came up. How cool. Hashtag nobillionaires. So Shelley Adelston bought a newspaper in Las Vegas. He also owns the largest newspaper in Israel, which is given away for free. And, of course, it represents Shelley Adelston's hardcore right-wing views and is incredibly supportive of Netanyahu. Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. And one of the things that you just basically never see covered in these things is the problem of extraordinary wealth being aggregated at the top and how that corrupts society. In other words, the problem of oligarchy. We are not discussing in this country the problem of oligarchy. And, it's why I did the nobillionaires.com website and the case against the billionaires. It's time as a nation that we have a serious discussion about outlawing billionaires. Now, I put this website up in 2012. 2012 was one heck of a year for the billionaires. The 100 richest people in the world got $241 billion wealthier, bringing their total net worth to $1.9 trillion. These 100 people have more combined wealth than the entire GDP of nations like Italy, Mexico, Spain, Canada, Australia, and about 170 other nations. Billionaires exclusive to the U.S. also had a field day as the annual Forbes 400 showed America's richest billionaires saw their wealth increase by $200 billion last year, bringing their total net worth to $1.7 trillion. And at the same time, 49 million Americans still living in poverty. So what do we do? I mean, I don't think that the way to solve this problem is to say billionaires can't buy media. I think the way to solve, because the problem is much deeper and more systemic than that. Thomas Piketty, really brilliantly laid it out in his book Capital. And others have, since that time. David K. Johnston writes about it very eloquently. There's a number of others. I've written about it. My book Screwed is all about this. The right-wing attempts to basically screw the middle class and move all that money into the hands of the very, very rich. We were talking, Chauncey DeVega and I, in the last hour, talking about the study that came out of Northwestern University by Page and Gillens, in which they found that the desires of the top 5% were regularly enacted into law. My recollection is it was 74% of the time. I could be off on that. I'm doing it from memory. But, it was noticeable and measurable. Whereas the desires of the bottom 95%, not so much. The probability of the average person's political desires being, strengthen Social Security, raise the minimum wage, whatever it may be, the probability of that being translated into law is equal to random noise. So my solution to this is to raise taxes. to raise taxes on the very, very wealthy back to where they were before Reagan first cut them in, I believe it was 82 or 83, his first big tax cut, where he took the top rate from 74%. It followed over several, there were several of these, but it started at 74%, the top tax rate. And at that point in time, the average CEO took home less than 30 times the average worker. And Reagan dropped that top rate, and we did not have, yeah, we had a couple of billionaires. I mean, you know, Bill Gates was there, Warren Buffett was there, but they were the exceptions rather than the rule. You had some people who were very, very wealthy, you know, the Koch brothers, very, very wealthy, but not just, you know, explosively, obscenely, morbidly rich. And then Reagan dropped that top tax rate from 74% down to 25%, and then it bounced back up a little bit. And, you know, Trump just cut it again. And that top tax rate is what protects us from oligarchy. It is a political stabilizer. And I would argue emphatically that the main reason why over the last, roughly 50 years has it been? 40 years? Since 1980? Yeah, it's been about 40 years. Since Reagan, essentially. During that period of time, the reason why our society and our politics have become so badly corrupted by just a whole cacophony of chaos. And, you know, the Tea Party coming out, no, you know, tax us less, and, you know, cut taxes, and Grover Norquist and all this, and the loss of our public schools falling apart, our infrastructure falling apart, people being poisoned all over the country. It's not just Flint, although Flint is among the worst. And again, Michael Moore's movie is just brilliant in this regard, Fahrenheit 11/9. But most of that is, according to Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett, who wrote two books. One was called Why Inequality Matters, and the other is called The Spirit Level. And they've got a substantial and robust website around this too, which you can, you know, easily find with a DuckDuckGo search. The reason why things have fallen apart so badly is that as economic inequality increases, as working class and poor people get less income, and as the very rich get more income and wealth, as that happens, there's this whole spectrum of social ills that explode on the scene. One of the things that Wilkinson and Pickett did is they literally went country by country around the world with the OECD countries, the 34 OECD countries, and then they went state by state with all 50 U.S. states. And you can see the graphs and charts on their website and in their book, The Spirit Level, which is just brilliant and really worth buying. And what you see is that whether it's comparing states to states, you know, Louisiana to California, or whether it's comparing Denmark to the U.S. or the U.K., that those countries, principally the United States and the United Kingdom, who followed Reagan and Thatcher's economic and political advice and unleashed the billionaires, have seen an explosion of this whole spectrum of social ills, from things like sexually transmitted diseases, teenage pregnancies, rape, violent, assault, murder, suicide. The number of people taking both illegal and psychoactive, legally prescribed drugs, alcoholism and deaths from alcoholism, traffic accidents as a consequence of alcoholism. I'm sorry, I don't have the list in front of me, but there's about 30 of these things on this list, and they measurably go up as inequality increases. I mean, it's just that simple. As inequality increases, they measurably go up. As inequality decreases, these social ills measurably go down. And I would add to that list billionaires buying media. And it's like, hey, you know, I've got $100 billion. I should do something. Well, by the Washington Post. I would do it if I was Jeff Bezos. But as a society, we have to ask ourselves this question. Is the price that we pay for having billionaires among us so low that we're willing to continue doing it? Or is the price so high? So many, literally 49 million people living in poverty. Is it so high? Is that price so high that it's time to say that we're going to start seriously taxing all income over $1 billion, and we're going to raise the top tax rate on people making over $2 to $3 million a year, excuse me, back up to 74%. I realize, there are Democrats, who are saying, oh, you can't talk like that. You'll never win elections. I think we will. I absolutely think we will. Franklin Roosevelt did it. I'll share some of FDR's thoughts on taxes with you after this break, and we can continue the conversation. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's 17 minutes past the